Hello, Algebra 1. We are going to go through the study guide, so make sure you can just basically look through this, see where you're, kind of just check your work, make sure you're on the right track, and then go from there. Really, really important that you guys are checking. This study guide is going to be really similar to your test. Your test is just going to be much shorter. Okay, so we start with -12 plus -5. Now, a lot of ways that you guys can do this. Most straightforward way you guys can do this is using your calculator. So if I were to plug that into my calculator, we would be using the negative button. So it would be -12 plus -5 gets me -17. If you want to do it by hand, one way that you guys can do it by hand is, so let's say we have -12 plus -5. And I won't do this for every single one, but if you have, what we can do is set up two columns. So we have the positive column and the negative column. We have -12, so that goes in the negative column. And we have -5, that goes in the negative column. If they're in the same column, we're going to add them together. So 12 plus 5 is 17. It's ending up in the negative column, so it's -17. And then I'll show you, like with this one, how you can do it when they're in the opposite columns. So that's one method of adding and subtracting positive and negative numbers. If they were both in the positive column, you would add them too, and it would just be positive. So with -7 plus 18, again, you can just use your calculator if you feel more comfortable with that. So that would be -7 plus 18, which gets me 11. Or we can, again, use this method. So when we use that method, again, we're going to have a positive column and a negative column. 7's a negative number, so it's going to go in the negative column. 18 is positive, it's going to go in the positive. So when they are in different columns, what you're going to do is you're going to look to see which is bigger, 18 or 7. 18 is bigger, so we're going to move the 7 over, and we're now going to subtract it. 18 minus 7 is 11. And it's in the positive column, so it's a positive 11. Just like we got in the calculator. Okay, so with -2 minus 11, what we're going to do is we're going to actually change this minus to be a plus -11 if we want to do it with our columns. If we don't and we just want to use our calculator, that would just be -2 minus 11, and that gets me -13. If not, and we want to use our columns like we did here, we have a positive column, we have a negative column. Negative and a negative, they're both in the same column. So when they're in the same column, we add them. 2 plus 11 is 13. It's a negative column, so it's going to be a negative answer, -13. Okay, 45 plus -18. Again, I can use my calculator or I can use the columns. I have a positive column, I have a negative column. 45 is positive. 18 is negative. When they're in opposite columns, I need to look to see which one is bigger, 45 or 18. 45 is bigger, so I'm going to move this one over and I'm going to subtract. 45 minus 18 gets me 27. 27's in the positive column, so we're going to have it be a positive 27. Okay, so we can keep going. When we have a minus and a minus, what happens? What type of operation does that turn into? A minus and a minus, remember that operation turns into a positive. So what we're doing is -14 plus 19. So again, we can set up our columns. Oh, that was not supposed to be an X. That was supposed to be a plus. Starting to graph apparently. So -14 is in the negative column, 19 is in the positive column because a negative and a negative make a positive. So to always use this, we always want the middle like sign to be positive. That's why we changed this one to be plus and negative. Negative and a negative, we know make a positive. So I look to see which is bigger, 19 or 14. 19 is bigger, so we're going to move the 14 to the other side and subtract it. 19 minus 14 is 5. It's in the positive column, so it's going to be a positive 5. And so those are some like tricks for helping you to solve when you're adding and subtracting positive and negative integers. Okay, so let's talk about our exponent problem. So we have negative 4 squared. That is in parentheses. Remember, it's super important to like think about what does that mean when it's in parentheses. So what that tells me when it's in parentheses is we're saying it's negative 4 times negative 4. Now, a negative times a negative gets me a positive, and so that gets me a positive 16. If you guys are plugging that into your calculator, you would also want to put it in parentheses. Parentheses negative 4 raised to the second power gets me a positive 16. If you didn't put it in parentheses, it would be assuming you weren't putting it in parentheses, which is a different answer. Now, negative 4 cubed, that means that we're multiplying negative 4 together 3 times. So negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. So negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. Positive 16 times negative 4, negative 64. Or we could just do that in our calculator. Negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. Just negative 64. Okay, continuing. So 8 divided by 0. Remember, whenever there's a 0 in the denominator, that always means undefined. If I have 8 pizzas and I'm dividing it amongst 0 people, how many slices of pizza are those 0 people going to get? That doesn't even make sense, and that's why it's undefined. So when the 0 is in the denominator, it's undefined. So when you are dividing, and the 0 is in the denominator, your answer will be undefined. Now, when it's on top, so 0 divided by 8, well, if I have 0 pieces of pizza and 8 people, and I'm going to divide it up against those 8 people, if I have 0 slices of pizza, how many slices of pizza are those 8 people going to get? They're going to get 0 slices of pizza. I have no pizza. So that means my answer here is 0. So when you are dividing and 0 is on top, your answer will be 0. So when you are dividing and the 0 is in the numerator, your answer will be 0. Okay, let's continue on. I'm going to continue on to number 10. So number 10, it says evaluate y squared minus the quantity of 8 minus x when x is equal to negative 7 and y is equal to negative 3. So first thing I'm going to do is substitution. So I know that x is equal to negative 7. So wherever there's an x, I'm going to plug in negative 7. And then y is equal to negative 3. So wherever there's a y, I'm going to plug in negative 3. Now remember, whenever we're plugging in numbers, we're always putting it in parentheses. So this is going to be negative 3 in parentheses squared minus 8 minus my x value, which is negative 7. Now, with this, we still want to follow GEMDAS, so we're still thinking GEMDAS here. So I'm looking at first my grouping symbols. My grouping symbols are here, 8 minus -7. I can simplify that further. Negative and a negative make a what? A negative and a negative make a positive. So 8 plus 7 gets me 15. And now that it's simplified, I don't have to put those parentheses anymore. So I did my grouping symbols. Now I'm going to deal with my exponents. So I have exponents here. So -3 squared, if it's in that parentheses like it is here, -3 times -3 gets me a positive 9. Bring it over here so I have more room. And then 9 minus 15 is my last step. There's no multiplying and dividing, so now I'm just adding and subtracting, remember, from left to right. 9 minus 15, if you guys need to use that column, you can. You can use your calculator. 9 minus 15 gets us -6. And that's my final answer. Okay, so we're going to move on. 11 through 15 are all order of operation problems. So we're going to be using GEMDAS. So I'm going to start by writing GEMDAS up here for 11. I'm just going to keep it up there for all of those so we can kind of reference back to it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simplify my grouping symbols. 3 plus 4, that is what's inside my grouping symbols. 3 plus 4 is 7. And then I'm just going to bring everything else down. I did my grouping symbols. Now I'm going to deal with my exponents. So my exponents is here, 7 squared. 7 squared is 49 minus 42 divided by 6 minus 20. Okay, I did my exponents. Remember, with multiplying and dividing, I'm doing that from left to right. Same with adding and subtracting. So I'm looking for multiplying and dividing first. So I have that here, -42 divided by 6. Well, -42 divided by 6 is -7. And now I can just add and subtract from left to right. 49 minus 7 is 42. 42 minus 20 is 22. Or I can just put that entire thing in my calculator. 49 minus 7 minus 20 gets me 22. And that is your final answer. Okay, on to the next one. So first thing, there's nothing really here in terms of grouping, exponents, multiplying, dividing. It's just adding and subtracting. So the first thing I would recognize is we have this minus and a minus. So I would right off the bat make that a positive. And to be honest, I would just plug that whole thing in my calculator. But if you want to do it step by step, we can do it step by step too. So 82 plus 4 is 86. 86 plus 110 minus 15. So then 86 plus 110 gets me 196. And then 196 minus 15 gets me 181. And that's it. Just adding and subtracting there. Okay, let's look at 13. So 13, if you're confused by the brackets are the same exact thing as parentheses. There's no difference. They're exactly the same. So just think of them as bigger parentheses. So when we have that, we still want to think about grouping symbols first, and we want to start by working like the smallest out. We're working in and then out. So when I look here, I'm totally going to ignore this first because I need to deal with my grouping symbols. Now my grouping symbols have grouping symbols within them, so I'm going to solve this first. 2 plus 4. 2 plus 4, I'm just going to bring everything down. Instead of writing a bracket, I'm just going to use parentheses. 2 plus 4 is 6. Then I look at my grouping symbols, and I need to simplify all of this. Now, I need to still follow order of operations here. So the first thing I would do is simplify my exponents. Now, what's really important here is the 6 is what's being squared, not the minus 6. It's the 6 that's being squared. So that gets me 2 to the 4th minus 7 minus 6 squared, which is 36. Now I can subtract 7 minus 36 to finally simplify this total grouping symbol altogether. 7 minus 36 gets me negative 29. And now I go back to, okay, I did all my grouping symbols. Now I need to do exponents. My exponents here is 2 to the 4th. Off the bat, I'm also just going to change that to a plus because we know that's going to come up. 2 to the 4th, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 16. And 16 plus 29 is 45. And that is your final answer. Just know, like, I use a calculator when I'm adding numbers like that. When I'm doing 196, like with this one, I would have just plugged that whole thing in my calculator. I would have plugged this whole thing in my calculator. Like, use your calculator. I use it. You guys should use it. Get comfortable with it. I want you guys to feel comfortable with it. Okay, let's move on. So we're on to 14. 14, we're starting with our grouping symbols. So we're starting with 2 minus 7. 2 minus 7 is negative 5. I don't really need those parentheses, and I know minus and a minus are going to make a positive. So I did my grouping symbols. I am now going to move on to exponents, which is just that 5 squared. 5 times 5 is 25. Now I'm going to multiply and divide from left to right. So I'm looking, there's my division. So I need to do 10 divided by 5 first. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And now I can just add those together. 25 plus 2 plus 5 is 32. And that's it. Okay, I think this is our last order of operation. Yep, it is. So last one, those fractions. So what we're going to do is we're just going to look at the top and we're going to look at the bottom as 2 separate problems, and then we're going to put it back together. So the top is that 9 squared plus 5 minus 7 squared. And then the bottom, I'm going to do totally separate in a minute, the square root of 121 minus 3 times 2. So let's deal with this one first. First thing I need to do is my grouping symbols. 5 minus 7. 5 minus 7 is negative 2. Then I want to do my exponents. I can do both. I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. 9 squared and negative 2 squared. 9 squared, 9 times 9 is 81. Negative 2 squared is 4. And then 81 plus 4 is 85. Okay, so I simplified the top. Now I'm going to go ahead and simplify the bottom. So I'm going to first do any grouping symbols, which I don't have. Exponents, which exponents here, there are no exponents, but a root falls kind of under the same category as exponents, because technically, which we'll go over at some point this year, an exponent and a root are the same thing. So 121, the square root of 121, if you guys don't know that one off the top of your head, you can plug it into your calculator. I have to press second and then see how above x squared is that square root button, and then plug in 121. And I get 11. Now I'm going to multiply and divide from left to right. So 3 times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. And then 11 minus 6 is 5. So my final answer, on top is 85. On bottom is 5. which I bet you we can simplify further. So into my calculator, I'm going to try that. 85, you can't see that. 85 divided by 5 gets me 17. And that would be what we'd want. We don't want to keep it as that fraction, because if you can simplify it further, then I'd want you guys to simplify it further. Okay, let's continue on. We're on the next page. Okay, so 16 says simplify using the distributive property. So we talked a little bit about this type of problem in class. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide that distribution into two parts. I'm going to first just deal with the bottom, which is the division portion. And so what I'm going to do is, this is saying divide everything through by 4. So I am going to do that first. I'm going to divide everything through by 4. And now I'm going to leave the top there, and I'm going to rewrite it over here. So the negative 3 is going to stay there, but now I'm just dividing everything by 4. Negative 16 divided by 4 is negative 4x. 4 divided by 4 is 1y, which you don't need the 1. You can put it, it doesn't matter. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. And that's it. So now once we divided everything through and we still just have the top, now it's something easy. Now it's something that you guys are probably much more comfortable with. So now we take the negative 3, distribute negative 4x, y, and negative 3. Remember, you're just multiplying the numbers in front together. So negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12x. Negative 3 times y, remember there's a 1 there, so negative 3 times 1 is negative 3y. And negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. To write that in standard form, the exponents always go first. Now, these have the same exponents. They have an exponent of 1. And then your constants, or your numbers without a variable, always go at the end. So 12x minus 3y plus 9 is how you would write it in standard form. So that's kind of like, if you want to deal with it as a fraction like that, kind of splitting it up into two parts, I think that's the most straightforward. If you want to multiply it by negative 3/4, like negative 16 by negative 3/4, 4 times negative 3/4, negative 12 by negative 3/4, you can too, and you would get the same answer. So whatever you feel most comfortable with, do that. Okay, so let's go on to 17. 17 through 20 are all combining like terms. So remember, with combining like terms, our first step, and always one of the most important steps, is to distribute. We want to get rid of those parentheses. So I look to see what's in front of the parentheses, and it's a negative 2. So I distribute that to the 10x squared, negative 5x, and 14. So the 5 stays the same, but then it becomes negative 20x squared. Negative 2 times negative 5 is positive 10x. And negative 2 times 14 is negative 28. Okay, so then from there, I can just combine like terms. So once I've distributed, all I have to do is look for my like terms. So on this one, I am going to kind of list them out. On some of the other ones, I'm just going to do it in my head. So first thing, 5 can combine with negative 28. So 5 minus 28 gets me negative 23. And then I keep going. So negative 20x squared can combine with negative x squared. And that's negative 20 minus 1. So that's negative 21x squared. And then our last one, 10x can combine with 11x. Remember, we're just adding the numbers in front. So 10 plus 11 is 21 also. And then the x just stays the same. Now to write this in standard form, we're putting our highest exponents first, and the constants always go last. So I can really ignore this until the end. Here my exponent is 2. Here my exponent is 1. So this one's going to go first. Then we have 21x minus 23. And that's your final answer. Okay, so let's try 18. So 18, first step, always, 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 is distribute. Now, we have two things that we need to distribute here. We need to distribute this minus. Remember, we can assume this is a -1 and distribute it to everything. And then we need to distribute this +5. So let's do that first. 10x doesn't change. And then -1 times 5y is -5y. -1 times -7x, +7x. And -1 times +10 is -10. 5 times -3x is -15x. And 5 times 9 is 45y. And then I just combine my like terms. If you guys feel more comfortable writing it out like I did up here, great. Continue doing that. I'm going to show you guys how I just do it in my head and work it like that. So 10x is going to combine with 7x, which is also going to combine with -15x. 10 plus 7 is 17. 17 minus 15 is 2x. So I just typically, when I'm doing these on my own, I just do it in my head. Again, if you want to write it out and keep yourself organized like that, you guys totally can. Do what makes you feel the most comfortable. And then -5y is going to combine with 45y. So -5 plus 45 gets me +45y. And then I have -10 by itself. And then to write it in standard form, all of my exponents are the same except -10. That's always going to be at the end. And so we just do it alphabetically. X comes before y. So 2x plus 45y minus 10. And that's it. Okay, so number 19, there's no distribution here. So all we have to do is combine our like terms. So I'm going to start by just looking for anything with an x cubed. So 3x cubed can combine with -2x cubed. And that's it. 3 minus 2 is 1x cubed. Keep going. So 10z can combine with 4z. 10 plus 4 is 14z. And then last one that can't combine with anything is 2x squared. So then to write this in standard form, we're going highest exponent to lowest. So 3 is my highest exponent. I'm not going to write that 1 with it. It's unnecessary. Then the 2 comes next because that has the next highest exponent of x squared. So 2x squared. And then 14z is at the end. Okay, we'll continue on. So number 20, again, there's no distributing here, so we just have to combine our like terms. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to look at 5x. Now, sometimes I actually will cross these out to help me. So I'll do like 5x plus 2x. So 5x plus 2x is 7x. And now that I know I've dealt with them, I'll cross them out. And then keep going. So -3x squared plus 2x squared. Oh, I almost forgot this one. Why the colors help. So -3 plus 2 is -1. And -1 plus 1, because remember this is a 1, is 0. So 0x squared, we don't need to write that. So I do not want you guys to keep that in your final answer. And so now that I've dealt with those, I can cross them out. And then my last number is +8. And so to write it in standard form, now that the x squared is gone because it's 0, we just have 7x plus 8. Okay, I just realized I said the right thing on a problem and I wrote the wrong thing on a problem. I was just looking at 18. -5y plus 45y is 40y. So that should be 40y, which means this should also be 40y. This is why I need you guys to be here in person to yell at me and tell me when I make mistakes. So 40y. And then this would be also 40y. Okay, sorry about that one. I was like, took a second and then I saw it and I was like, oh, I guess we should fix it now before we end the video. Okay, so last part is back page. Okay, we have one more combining like term. Looks like a doozy. So first thing we're going to do is distribute. So that means we look to see what number is in front of the parentheses, and it's a positive 3. That 3 is going to go to the m squared, 2n, 8n squared. So that's going to be negative 4m squared plus 6. That stays the same, but now 3 times m squared. Remember, that's just 3 times 1. So 3m squared. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6n. 3 times 8 is 24n squared plus 10n minus 12 plus n squared. Okay, so from there, we just start by combining like terms. With this one, because there's so many, I am going to kind of keep it organized and do my columns like I do. So negative 4m squared can combine with 3m squared. I think that's it, yep. So negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1m squared. Keep going. So 6 can combine with negative 12. 6 minus 12 is negative 6. Okay, next one, negative 6n can combine with 10n. Negative 6 plus 10 is 4n, positive 4n. And then we have 24n squared plus n squared. Remember, that's just 24 plus 1, so that's 25n squared, positive. Okay, so to write that in standard form, we are going to write it from largest exponent to smallest. So m squared and n squared are both exponents of 2. So I'd want to write that alphabetically. M comes before n, yep, in the alphabet. So we would write this, you just have to write that as negative m squared plus 25n squared. If you wrote it with the negative 1, that's fine, but typically you'll see it just with the negative, plus 4n minus 6. And that would be your final answer there. Okay, let's look at the last two problems, kind of more abstract type problems. Use the rectangle to find the perimeter. So it's saying find the perimeter. How do we find the perimeter of a box or a rectangle or square or really anything? Perimeter means, and is telling us, we need to add up the sides. So if this side length of a rectangle is 8 minus 2x squared plus 12x, this side length is the same length too. 8 minus 2x squared plus 12x. And if this side length is x squared minus 2 plus 11x, and then this side is also x squared minus 2 plus 11x. So all we're going to do is just add those together. So we are going to, we can do kind of like a long problem here. Or if you, like, there's so many ways that you guys can do this. You could multiply this by 2, multiply this by 2, and then add them together. Or we can just make one long problem and add it all together. So let's try that first. So I'm going to start here. 8 minus 2x squared plus 12x plus x squared minus 2 plus 11x plus 8 minus 2x squared plus 12x. I'm hoping I can fit this in. Plus x squared minus 2 plus 11x. Sorry, that's squeezed in there. And so now I can just combine my like terms. So I can combine 8 minus 2, 8, and minus 2. Again, if you guys want to write them in the column, 8 plus 8 is 16, minus 2, that's minus 4. So 16 minus 4 is 12, positive 12. And then negative 2x squared plus x squared, negative 2x squared plus x squared. So negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4 plus 2 gets me negative 2x squared. And then last one, we have 12x plus 11x plus 12x plus 11x. So 12 plus 11 plus 12 plus 11, that gets me, that's 23 plus 23, so 46x. And then we just want to write it in standard form. So negative 2x squared, that has the highest exponent, plus 46x plus 12. If it said area, you'd be multiplying, which we don't know how to do. But remember, perimeter is always just adding your side lengths together. You could have done that, like I said, multiple different ways. You could have just done it in your head. You could have multiplied this by 2, multiplied this by 2, and then added them. You know, there's not just one way to do that. Okay, last problem. It says, Sean solved a math problem on his homework. He showed you his work so he could check it. Read the question below and look at his work carefully. If he is correct, write that he is correct. However, if he made a mistake, circle the mistake and explain what he did wrong and show him the correct work. So I am just going to start by solving this problem because I would rather not look at his work first. I would rather just do it on my own. So I'm going to first just do it over here. So we have 4 plus 5 squared minus 4 divided by 2 plus 8. So I'm going to make sure that I write down GEMDOS here because I know that that's where it's going to get tricky. So we start by our grouping symbols. 4 plus 5. So 4 plus 5 is 9. Okay, I simplified my grouping symbols. Now I move on to my exponents, which is 9 squared. So 9 times 9 is 81. I did my exponents. Now I'm going to multiply and divide from left to right. So that would be negative 4 plus 2. So negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. There's no more multiplying and dividing from left to right. So 81 minus 2 plus 8, I'm just going to do that in my calculator, gets me 87. Okay, sorry, I lost my pen. So 87, is that the same as 7.7? No. So Sean is wrong. So let's figure out where he went wrong. So let's see. So our second step, we got 9 squared minus 4 divided by 2 plus 8. So that one looks good. And then we got 81 minus 4 divided by 2 plus 8. Okay, that looks good. And then we got 81 minus 2 plus 8. Oh, wait, you got 77 divided by 10. So what happened? How did we get 77? Well, 81 minus 4 is 77. So my answer here, because we need to circle the mistake and explain what he did wrong, it looks like Sean did not follow the correct order of operations. He subtracted before he divided. which does not follow GEMDAS. And that's that. So that's the study guide. If you guys have any questions, bring them to class and we will go over those questions in class. If you guys have any, questions that you want to answer before, please email me. We can talk about these. I can always hop on a Zoom and talk to you guys one-on-one if you need that. So have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys soon.